Greetings, YouTube. LMS Tactical here. Hope you're doing good. It's Saturday, and this video is going to be just a conversation with you guys, sorta. Nothing special here, just some thoughts that I have, and I got some time to kill. My son, he just got his driver's license like literally 2 weeks ago, and you know, he wanted to drive to his girlfriend's house, which is like 120 miles away, and today they've had snow and rain and every other thing on the way up here, and he wanted to drive by himself, and you know, there's just no way I was going to let that happen. So I had no idea it was this far. My God, man, I mean, I'm down to a quarter tank of gas, and I dropped him off and I'm heading home. But you know, I was thinking about some stuff, and you know, I'm going to ramble because I don't have a format on where I'm going with this. So feel free to switch over to you know, motorcycle accidents or whatever the hell you guys watch on YouTube, you sick perverts. I watch those too sometimes. But so the other day I was flipping through the channels, and I landed on the Hitler channel, or the History channel. And for those of you that haven't watched the History channel lately, nothing's changed. It's just literally 24 hours of Adolf Hitler and, you know, the whole World War II thing. And it always, for some reason, I end up getting stuck on it, even though I've probably seen them all. You can never get enough Hitler. I don't know why that is. You know, we're all kind of infatuated with the little guy. Now, I have this weird thing, you know, obviously, I'm one of these guys, those that have been on the channel know that, you know, nothing is just what it appears. I always got to think a little bit harder, and it's kind of a genetic thing, because my father does this too, and it's kind of a curse. You know, my kids do it. You know, we'll look at like a black and white picture or something that was taken in, you know, when photography just came out in whatever, the 1800s, and you see the guys standing there with their hands in their shirts or whatever the pose of the day was, and I always look at that picture and I think, man, once that flash went off, poof, gunpowder flash in those days, those people that you're looking at, you know, got out of that pose and they went about their lives, man, whatever their lives involved, and they lived and they died. And you know, if you look at the picture, I always think that pictures are, I'm probably gonna end up in a mental institution after telling you this, but I look at a picture and it's like, it stops. I'm still amazed at that kind of technology. I mean, so you can imagine what this smartphone that I'm talking into, how that affects me. I can't believe that you can stop the world with a click of a button. So the next time you're looking at a picture, a still picture, just imagine that as far as you can blow up or expand the photograph, depending on the pixels of your abilities of your camera, you can see other things that weren't intended to be seen by the photographer. You know, maybe there's a guy across the street mowing his lawn, and there's a house behind him, and maybe you know, there's people in the house having an argument or eating or fucking or whatever they're doing, and behind the house is another house, and it just goes on. And if you could just keep on zooming in indefinitely on that picture, you would literally have stopped the entire fucking world, you know, within the parameters of the viewfinder. I know it doesn't make much sense to you, but it's hard to explain. So I give you that because, so that you'll know that when I'm watching things like Hitler, and you know, I think a lot deeper than I probably should. And this is in no way, I almost forbid any discussion on this video in terms of comments about how it never happened and the Holocaust is a joke and it's an exaggeration. I'm going to tell you right now that I don't buy into that. I believe it happened. One of the reasons is because you know, I'm not Jewish, but my father is. And on his side of the family, a very huge number of them were wiped out in the Holocaust. So don't tell me it didn't happen. I've met like a great uncle who has he's still alive, and he's still got the number tattooed on his forearm. He was 12 years old when he was put in the camps, and was liberated by the Americans, you know, toward the end of the war, and blah blah blah. So now think about the black and white footage that you see on the History Channel of these atrocities, you know, but you'll see like lines of mothers and sons and, you know, little daughters holding teddy bears, and it's all black and white, and sometimes they look at the camera and they're wearing long coats and whatever. What the fuck was that? I just heard an explosion. The fucking tire just blew up. But what the hell was it? There's a man on the wing. Twilight Zone. So you know, you look at that stuff, and it's very easy, we all do it, to subconsciously believe and feel that all of that shit in World War II happened in black and white, because that's how we see most of it. I mean, nowadays, of course, they have the colorized, you know, films, but for the most part, our only experience with the Holocaust is black and white films of a bunch of Jews lining up. Sometimes there's, you know, mountains of dead Jews. Sometimes they're getting their heads blown off and falling face forward into the pit that's stacked with other Jewish families and shit. It's really windy, by the way. That's why I'm driving like I'm drunk. I mean, think about that. I mean, when you start to put color to it, and you start to realize that after the camera pans away, those people still went on to their unbelievably inhuman captivity, terror, horror, and ultimately into the ovens or into the gas chamber or into the pits. You know, with everything going on right now in the Middle East and with ISIS, you know, you can go on to the internet and you can easily see rows and rows of Christians getting executed. You can see them be put in cages and lowered into swimming pools with GoPro cameras that ISIS puts in the cage so you can listen to them and watch them as they drown. I mean, that shit is happening right now as I'm making this video. I mean, some of those old Coptic Christian towns, man, some of the oldest ones on the planet, they've literally killed or driven off every single Christian. And it's no different to me, man. It's absolutely no different than the Holocaust. God dang it, here comes an 18-wheeler. Let me in. It's no different than what was happening to the Jews in World War II, and yet the world just collectively yawns. I don't understand it. If you ask me, well, what are we supposed to do about it, Mike? I don't know, man. I mean, I don't want to lose any more of our young people in combat. But man, I just think, I can't help but think that history's gonna fucking hold us all accountable for turning our collective heads away from this. This is a problem that has to be dealt with sooner or later. And the way things look, it's not going to be dealt with until it starts affecting us personally. That's what happened during World War II. I can't remember the name of the ship, but it was full of Jews that were trying to escape Germany, and they came to America, and I think they were in, oh God, what's the name of that fucking little state where all the banks are? God damn it, I can't think. But, you know, the president wouldn't allow the ship to dock. Nobody would allow them to dock. And it was loaded to the gills with mothers and children, grandparents. And ultimately they had to go back, they were forced to go back to Europe, where they were all eventually lost in the Holocaust. They went to camps and were abused, and they were tortured and experimented on by fucking psychotic German Nazi fucking doctors. And And now we look at that and we're like, oh my God, well, we didn't know. America didn't know until, later on. The world didn't know because there wasn't instantaneous information like there is today. That's our excuse today. They knew what was going on because some of my own family.
1.3 miles, take exit 300 on left to I-66 East.
Some of my own family saw the writing on the wall and they escaped. Austria-Hungary at the time is what it was. The map changed, of course, throughout the years. And that's why I'm sitting here talking to you. So yeah, you look at the History Channel and you see all this shit. And I look into the eyes of these young mothers that were holding, and there's no, I'll tell you this, dude, this was a difficult thing for me. My niece, believe it or not, got me a book years ago.
Take exit 300 on left to I-66 East.
And the name of the book was called The Good Old Days. And it had a very profound effect on me in terms of, I thought I knew everything about the Holocaust because I'd seen everything and all the History Channel programs. I've heard all the stories from my own family. But this book called The Good Old Days, it was named after like a diary that was found in one of the SS officers. His ancestors, modern ancestors, were going through a box and they found this thing. And it was like a diary kept by this Nazi. And on the cover was a picture of him and his.
Drive 44 miles on I-66 East.
Picture of him and his Nazi buddies, and they were all smiling and shit with all their regalia on. And it was called The Good Old Days. And man, it was told by a guy that was there, that was participating in it, this Nazi. And there were pictures. I still have that fucking book, and it just really upset me. I've seen men's inhumanity to man up close and personal, but not on a massive scale. I haven't seen 2,000 people fucking executed in one day. And this guy would describe in this book, this Nazi would describe about, in a good way, he missed it. How in this one town, I can't remember the name of it, Czechoslovakia town, it was in one of those places, and this one big muscular dude was beating Jews to death with this pole, like a long metal pole about 9 or 10 feet long. Maybe it wasn't that long, it was probably about 8 feet long. And it was like a fence post, like a metal fence post kind of thing. And so the Jews were lined up in that town, and all the kids and everybody came. Nazis were standing around, you could see pictures of it, and they were standing on the hoods of cars to get a good look at this shit. And it was like a real fun event for the town. And for as far as the eye could see were these mothers and fathers and grandpas and grandmas and bankers and fucking, bakers and butchers and all these people that had lived in this town but were Jewish. And this guy would beat one of them to death with this pole. And there'd be teeth and hair and blood and shit, all over the ground. And then the next guy would come up, or the next girl, and he'd beat them, smash their heads in, break their jaws. And he literally did this from sun up to sun down. And every now and again, this is the sick part, every now and again, he would stop to take a break. Another dude would turn on this hose and hose away all the teeth and shit and blood and brains that he was slipping on. And the guy that was doing all the beating and murdering would pull out this hand accordion, and he would start fucking dancing this jig and playing this accordion. Is that not right out of some fucking Kafka fucking insane movie? I mean, really? And he was dancing around in the blood, and he's covered with shit, human fucking fluids, and would smile and sing this song. And then he would put that fucking accordion down and wave the next people. some of the Jews that were further back in the line, after watching this, they all knew what was waiting for them. You know, they'd be like waiting for a ride at Disneyland. You get closer and closer. Some of them would actually get in fights with each other, trying to get to the front of the line and take cuts to get it over with. They couldn't take. They were like going insane, waiting to get beat to death. What the fuck, man? I mean, there's a lot to learn from what happened there. I mean, just in that one story, the human condition. You know, it makes me want to go back in time and slap the shit out of these Jewish people. What? My God, you look at all the people that were standing there with guns, but the people that were not armed outnumbered them like 25 to 1. How about a human tidal wave and just fucking, yeah, you're gonna get killed anyways, but don't step to your death with it and just stand there and take it. This guy would take 2 at a time and beat him to death, poking people's eyes out and shit. I mean, you just swarm that motherfucker, man. Eventually somebody's gonna get a gun, and then you start taking you know, I can't believe they gave up their life so willingly, and that's a whole nother topic, man. You know, next time you see anything on the Holocaust, ask yourself, why did all these fucking people allow just a small number of armed people to fucking herd them into trains and shit? You know, after a while, they were weak and starved, and that was on purpose, to get them weak and so they wouldn't fight back. But, you know, there were a few cases where people fought back in the ghettos of Warsaw and shit, but it was very rare. And so I'll tie it into today's events. The same shit is happening right now today. I've seen videos of Christians lined up on their knees in the hundreds, and after the final Allah Akbar, people start shooting them in the heads, and you know, what the fuck? Why don't you turn around and fight for your life, man? It's unbelievable. You know, I've seen them where they've been knelt down on the ground, and one by one they get their heads cut off by some psycho with a fucking knife, or each person would bend down, would reach down and cut off a head. Out of all the videos I've seen, I saw one Russian guy during they were fighting the Chechens, and they had all these Russian soldiers lined up and were cutting their heads off one by one. And some young dude at the very end said, fuck this, got up and took off, and he got shot and killed. Hey, that's better than getting your fucking head sawed off slowly by a dull knife. You know, people need to get the fucking fighting mentality in their bones now, man. Because every single civilization, every fucking group of people in our country, and in every country, has had their nightmare times. You know, where this kind of shit has happened. This is ours. Ours is having Obama for a president. God forbid Hillary or Bernie. But we've got a Muslim sympathizer in the White House who's appointing Muslims to every Muslim. You know, it's just, if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, it's going to happen in our kids' lifetimes. They're going to have to either fucking lay down and be murdered, or they're going to have to fucking swarm and fucking start fighting and gouging people's eyeballs out. And they're not going to do it if their feelings get hurt because somebody wrote Trump 2016 in chalk at a university. You know, if that's the kind of people we're raising, we are setting them up to be good victims when the day comes and there's mass shootings or beheadings or whatever the fuck awaits them. You know? Or God forbid we get an illegal government that turns on its own citizens. This stuff happens. You know, the history is ripe with examples of civilizations that have experienced. There's almost no group of people that has been spared carnage. You know, they talk about the greatest generation. Those people grew up with the World War on their hands, whether they were fighting or they were family members. You know, people my age grew up expecting a nuclear bomb from Russia to fucking be detonated at any second. You know, I still remember the last Thursday of every month they would have the air raid sirens when I was growing up in Inglewood, California. You know, you're supposed to duck and cover and blah blah blah. You know, so you'd get under the desk so that the desk would fuse to your fucking ass in the nuclear blast. I don't know. But I'm starting to ramble, but I warned you in the beginning, this is kind of a ramble. I don't know, man. So, I guess if I have to make a point, it's when you're looking at fucking old video of World War II, specifically the Jews being slaughtered. And it wasn't just Jews, it was Masons and gays and gypsies and a bunch of people. Remember that shit was real to them. You know, picture in your mind, if you haven't seen it, picture the blood, the color of blood and the smell of shit and teeth flying out of somebody's head. I've seen it all, brother, and imagine it on a massive scale. That was what was happening to them. It wasn't black and white. They could smell it. You know, imagine kneeling down on the edge of a big pit full of dead bodies, people you grew up with and knew, and you're waiting for your bullet in the head so you can fall face first into the, you know, after you've been standing naked for a while, waiting to die. If we let ourselves be put to sleep, if we let ourselves be weakened, if we let our next generation and future generations be weakened by the promise of a free and happy life, we do them a disservice. Well, what do, Mike? Train them how, teach them how to fight? Teach them how to fucking be tough, goddammit. You know, don't let them go to schools where they tell you that you can't fucking hit back if somebody hits you. Don't, you know, that's bullshit. You know, we're raising a bunch of fucking Jewish victims if we think about it. We're raising a bunch of people that are just gonna surrender their lives without a fight. You know, that's what all this political correctness does. It weakens people, and it's designed to do that. So we have to resist it. And when we see something we don't like a fucking guy going into a girl's bathroom because the school thinks that it's insulting to actually recognize that sexes are different, you raise your voice and you go, hey, fucking freak, get the fuck out of here. This is the goddamn, that's the girl's bathroom. And then when you get in trouble, you get in trouble. You suck it up and you fight it out in court. And you fucking don't take it sitting down. You fight for the right to have your fucking opinions and to voice them, and to not let some asshole like fucking Obama pervert this country and our values and steal them from us and tell us that our values are wrong. Fuck that. Anyways, I hope it made some sense. You guys have a happy weekend. I want to steer into the next fucking tree. All right, guys. Happy Saturday. Be safe. LMS Tactical. I'm out.
I'm going out of my head. Turning Japanese. You know I'm turning Japanese. I really think so.